when you're creating a food product, so there's a couple ways you can do it. So if anybody listening is interested in creating a food product, you can do things. There's something called private labeling, and that's where you can buy from a manufacturer a product that's already made. So maybe somebody sells something that you really love, and you can get your own label put on it, and you can buy it in a larger quantity. So then you would make the profit on that. But for my product, I sourced all the ingredients, and just finding quality sourcing was really difficult. And that took months, especially finding a quality collagen. It was so hard to find one where they would give me all of the testing and everything like that. Like my collagen is pesticide free verified, and like that was almost non-existent. It was so hard to find because nobody wants to do the testing, and a lot of the testing comes back negative. So just that whole process was big.
Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of omarcumberbatch.com. Real excited to share today's guest with you. Her name is Jenn Ditzhazy, and she's the founder of ThePerfect3 Collagen, which is a product line that sets a higher standard for the food and supplement industry that's available on the market. So she struggled with her health for many years, and she discovered the life-changing power of food to heal the body. She's also a health coach. She went to IIN like myself, and I really wanted to share her with this audience because I know a lot of health coaches dream about bringing a product to market, be it supplements or even food or ideas that might be a product-based business in the health coaching space. So I thought Jenn was amazing, and she really shows you step by step how to do something like that. So really fascinating story, and I'm very excited to share her with you. The course is about to be completed. You should be hearing about it any day. The feedback so far has been tremendous, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. So my podcast course, keep an eye on it. If you want to kind of just get any pre-information about it, just shoot me an email at omar@omarcumberbatch.com. We could chop it up. We'll discuss some of the angles that I'm trying to bring forth. And I really hope that you do take advantage of that, because it also helps me kind of curate the content in a different way. I actually just had lunch with a buddy of mine who's launching a podcast, and I'm assisting him with it. And it's so cool when someone who is not in the podcast space yet has all these very, I call them elementary questions, because I completely forgot about like half the stuff that goes into podcasting, because I've been doing it for 7 years and it's kind of secondary to me, but it's really important when I do have these conversations with people who do not have podcasts, who are curious about podcasting specifically, that I get down to the basics and really help the audience to get them off the ground. So I'm really looking forward to having that dialogue with anybody out there who's interested in something like that. It'll just make the course a lot more beneficial to anyone who's interested in grabbing it. So also please leave a rating and review on iTunes. This is how I get all these fantastic guests just like Jenn Ditzhazy. Let us jump into the show. Hey Jenn, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me, Omar.
My pleasure. I am so excited to share with a person in the product space, because I don't think I've had someone specifically who makes products and has a growing business in quite some time. I think since Catherine Arnston, honestly, on the Health Coach Academy podcast. So really excited to pick your brain. So I want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about your journey and really what made you come up with this company and this idea.
Yeah. So I'm excited to share that. So I don't know if you knew this, but I was actually an IIN graduate. And so
wow.
I know, right? I know you went to IIN too.
Yes. Oh, what year did you go?
I was thinking about it. I think it was 2016 is when I did it. What about you?
I was 2014, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
It was interesting because I've had a lot of people from IIN think that I'm like a newer IINer, because some of them actually went to IIN when they had classes in Manhattan. So
Oh,
they had like
cool.
a real school, and then they converted everything online, which was kind of interesting. So I know obviously 2016 you were 100% online, so that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, I'm always so envious of people that went in person because there's
All
so
right.
many amazing speakers. And yeah, that would have been a cool experience.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it was still great. I was still really enjoyed it. But yeah, so basically I went to IIN because I was really trying to figure out my own health. Growing up, I had horrible eczema. Like I was like a baby. I have these photos of me as a baby and I was covered in eczema on my face. I just had terrible skin. And now I get compliments on my skin and it's shocking to me when I get them because I'm like I picture myself as this kid with eczema.
Mm,
But I had those kinds of health problems. I dealt with anxiety, and a lot of it ended up being related to foods that I was eating. And IIN really helped to kickstart my healing journey. But during that process, I became just super interested in products and especially like food and supplement products. I just really enjoy them. And so collagen was actually one of the products. A lot of people don't think of it this way. They think of it typically for like skin aging, because that's kind of what the media portrays it as. But it's
hmm.
actually really great for people with skin issues like myself with eczema. So I started using collagen and it was super powerful for me. It helped me to heal my gut. I had a lot of gut issues, so it helped with that. I was also an athlete. I was a really avid rock climber, and so it helped with my muscles and those kinds of things. And I basically just fell in love with this food. And so I started looking into the space, and I found that there was really just in the supplement and honestly the health food space in general, there isn't much regulation. There's kind of it's a little bit scary because people will come to me and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's crazy you got into, the health food space. It must be so regulated." And it's really not.
Mm,
So that's interesting. So yeah, so I got into it and I kind of saw that there was this issue where there wasn't a ton of transparency with collagen specifically and protein powders and supplements in general. And so I wanted to create basically the brand that I wanted. I wanted something that was super clean, super high quality, something that people could trust. So yeah, that's kind of where we started. And right now we have three products in our line. We have two collagen creamers and a collagen powder. So yeah.
no, that's amazing. It's so cool that you turned your passion for, your health and your own story into a business, and especially a product-based business. So I would think that would be like such a huge endeavor. What was your like thought process in it, especially initially just coming out with maybe that idea? What kind of was going on in your head at that point to propel you to actually take the first steps to create this?
Yeah. So actually, I was a health coach. I coached people for probably about a year and I really enjoyed it. But it was like, I felt like I just wanted to create products. I don't know. I think it's just like I've always been that way where I have always thought about creating products and it's just something I've always been interested in. And so what I did is I started reaching out to different brands, like smaller brands. One of them was Lovebird cereal, which is a really high quality cereal, and just kind of picking their brains and asking these people like, how did you get started? And people were super super nice and helpful. And eventually I ended up finding a couple of food scientists and they helped me to develop the products, and helped me to kind of source all the ingredients. And so that's just like a little overview of the process of it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I think honestly, it's always just been something that I really enjoy. Like I will go to Whole Foods and I will just like spend hours just looking at products because I really enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. But so one of the things again, I just have to ask. I do ask this of many of my guests because again, like the idea just popped in your head. Were you an entrepreneurial spirit to begin with, or was this something that's totally foreign to you?
Yeah, so I don't have experience in it. No, I actually in undergrad I was pre-med because I wanted to be a doctor and then I kind
Hmm.
of I felt like I wasn't, and I think that this is something a lot of health coaches feel is like they see this gap and they see this gap between what the doctor can do and what you can do with your own health, and that's kind of where the health coach comes in. And so I that was kind of my initial journey. I was a teacher and then I was in sales. So I've been in business, but I'd never started my own business before. My health coaching was like a small business that I started, but I don't think I didn't dive fully into it. And then this was really like my first entrepreneurial endeavor.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. I'm always fascinated by that leap, being that you didn't have any experience in it necessarily yourself. So let me ask you, I just got to take it back a drop again. How about like in your family? Was there somebody, or did you grow up in a household that was bold in that entrepreneurial spirit?
Kind of, I guess, like my mom, it's kind of funny. She had like at flea markets in Los Angeles, she would sell like these dolls that she made. So she would sell like basically like arts and crafts. So it was
Mhm.
very, very small, not like a huge business, but I kind of saw that. But no, not really.
Wow. No, listen, I give you a lot of credit.
Aw,
I
thanks.
really do. Because again, like one of the things that I find, even in my life, but a lot of health coaches, we discuss it a lot, is that, the more successful they are in the business world, especially coming with that spirit of trying to help people in the health and wellness space, it usually seems like they've had some kind of background in something, or like their parents were entrepreneurs. It's interesting to hear your story, to just say this is you, and this is kind of just out of, I don't want to say out of left field, but this is a new experience, and you have the bravery to go into the space because it's not easy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, what was like the first step you took after you kind of got this idea, you spoke to the scientists? Like, what was the first thing that you had to step into? Was it a website? Was it something that maybe incorporating yourself? Just give us a little bit about like first steps.
Yeah. So yes, there was all those like I guess more like official pieces to it, like you're talking about, like the website and those things. But with food products, there's so many variables and there's really so many ways you can do it. As well as just physical products in general, whether they're food or not food, or supplements or whatever. But basically, there's lots of different ways you can do it, and there really isn't much information. So I think honestly, the first like few months of working on it. It took me about a year from idea to actually having a product, because there really isn't a ton of information. And the food industry specifically, it's kind of, I guess you could call it clicky or something of that sort. Like there isn't a ton of information out there that's readily available for people. So I guess after I initially started kind of mixing things in my own kitchen, and then I started calling different businesses. So I called like a co-packer who is someone who would actually manufacture the product. And I started calling these different businesses and basically asking them, like, okay, if I want to work with you, what do I need to do before I do that? So I kind of puzzle pieced the process together.
Mhm.
I had some people who were in the industry that I knew, but really each different food product is kind of different in the way that it's created. Um, so I kind of puzzle pieced it together. So then I would say, then I found the food scientists. They took what I had done in the kitchen and made it more legitimate. So you have to kind of take into account things like the shelf life of a product. So say you want it to be in retail, it has to take that into account. The way they figure out the nutrition facts on something like that is different than just how we would calculate the calories in something. There's different factors taken into account. So they help with things like that. So after I worked with them, I had to find suppliers for all of my different ingredients. So my products have about 10 ingredients. So I basically found 10 different businesses to source ingredients from. And that honestly was really interesting because there's so much about the food industry that we just don't know. Like there's this rule that if something in an ingredient, so let's say the ingredient is coconut milk powder. There's something in that ingredient that is in a small enough quantity. So let's say it's like maltodextrin. If it's in a small enough quantity, you actually don't have to put it on the ingredient label. But the thing about maltodextrin is it's a corn derivative. And so if people have a corn allergy, they could be reacting to something that says organic coconut milk powder because there's a small amount of maltodextrin that's not listed on the label, which blew my mind because
Hmm.
I'm very sensitive to food. I think a lot of people who health coaches work with are. So you really have to be careful about where you get your products from.
That is crazy because all of us health coaches who are like so diligent about our own diets and avoiding X, Y, and Z, and it's like you said, it's like, if it's a little bit, we're not even going to mention it.
Right, right. I know. It's crazy.
So look, I know we're going to go off the rails a little bit, but just this experience with understanding even that simple concept, I mean, how has that affected your personal choices and products?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I am so picky now. I also I it's harder for me to like I feel like this whole process had made me eat just very simply, I guess, like buying a lot fewer products, only buying from companies that I really trust and are very transparent about the quality and the testing of their ingredients. Because one of the things I found out, especially about collagen, is that, and really protein powders in general, and a lot of people use protein powders like every single day, is that there's an issue where they can get contaminated with things like heavy metals and pesticides. And that's not something that's going to be on the ingredient label. No one would ever list that. And they probably aren't even testing for it. So it's just made me really diligent about reading, like going to the websites of products that I buy and reading about them. And I really think this is actually a space that health coaches could help with a lot, not only in educating, but also they're a resource for their clients and their community, becoming like a resource for products and helping people understand like this is a great product to choose. And really doing that legwork for people because it's really the Wild West. Like in the United States, we allow so many ingredients in our foods and our products that other countries don't because they're not good for us. And I know you're aware of that for sure.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm unfortunately I'm too well aware of it, and I'm curious too because again I haven't done this with since Aunt Catherine, and because of the shenanigans that go on in this country with the with that very point, I know that she does a lot of it outside of the country because it's just a better product. Have you ever entertained that idea as well? And if you haven't, why? And is that something maybe a health coach should be looking into?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I'll answer the last question first. And I think definitely, I think that you can really just, we have so much access to things, especially with like, shipping is so much faster than it used to be and that sorts of things. So really not just limiting yourself to products in the US to get the best products for all the different things you need. Really looking outside the US too, I think is great, especially places like from Europe or Australia. They have a lot higher standards than us. So for my product, we manufacture everything in the US, and a lot of our ingredients are sourced in the US because I basically just picked the best ingredients I could possibly find. So, like, if there was a secondary ingredient listed that I didn't have to put on the label, I wouldn't choose those because I didn't want it contaminated. Like the coconut powder that I mentioned, that was something that was really hard to find, just pure coconut milk powder.
Mm-hmm.
Our collagen is actually sourced from South America because the pasture raised and grass fed is just much more common down there, and factory farming is a lot less common. So we get a lot cleaner, higher quality collagen sourcing it that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that I have heard that before as well. No, so yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's especially when you have to stand behind a product and have all these little nuances, and like you said, you're taking 10 different places for your particular products and ingredients. It's a lot to deal with. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's funny too, because when I first set out, I think it's kind of like really anything you do. Like, I'm sure even starting your podcast, you probably felt this way. Like, you set out and you're like, oh, it seems so simple. And then you get into it and you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. So what was your first oh wow moment since you brought it up?
Um, I think what you're talking about with the sourcing of the ingredients, it's just difficult. And when you're creating a food product, so there's a couple ways you can do it. So if anybody listening is interested in creating a food product, you can do things. There's something called private labeling, and that's where you can buy from a manufacturer a product that's already made. So maybe somebody sells something that you really love, and you can get your own label put on it and you can buy it in a larger quantity. So then you would make the profit on that. But for my product, I sourced all the ingredients, and just finding quality sourcing was really difficult. And that took months, especially finding a quality collagen. it was so, so hard to find one where they would give me all of the testing and everything like that. Like my collagen is pesticide free verified, and like that was almost non-existent. It was so hard to find because nobody wants to do the testing, and a lot of the testing comes back negative. So just that whole process was big.
So when you say that it came back, they come back negative, why is that the case? And yeah, that's an interesting statement. You just
Yeah, yeah. So it's because there's small amounts of pesticides. There's many different kinds of pesticides. One of the biggest ones is like glyphosate.
okay.
And so when my product is bovine collagen, so a lot of the bovine collagen gets contaminated purely because of what the animal is eating. So if the animal is eating something that has glyphosate residue on it, that can show up in the collagen when they make the collagen because it gets integrated into the bones and the tissues of the animal.
Hmm. Okay. So, but that will turn it into a positive test, oh, or
Oh,
it's
I'm
not
sorry.
positive.
Yes. Yes, they'll come back positive. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So your product is coming. I got you negative. Okay.
Yeah, it's pesticide free verified, so it comes back negative. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. All right. So I know one of the questions the audience is definitely dying for me to ask is probably what is the cost of something like this? What does it look like? The dollars and cents of an investment to actually have a product get up and running and sellable.
Yeah. So it really depends. If you're going to do private labeling, so I guess it's if you want to do a purely physical product, like we sell frothers on my website, that's much quicker. You can source them. A lot of people will source them from China, things like that. And it's a lot easier. You don't really need anyone involved. So there's kind of like a spectrum. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great way to start with a first initial product because you can usually order a small amount. A lot of products you have to order a minimum order quantity, and same for ingredients in a product. So like for my 10 ingredients, I couldn't say like, okay, let's do an initial batch of just 100 bags of my product and see how that sells because each ingredient you have to order a certain amount. So you it's hard to say. It really depends. I would say the minimum is probably $10,000, maybe $5,000 if you're doing some type of supplement, and that would just be for the product itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing another type of physical product, that can be a little easier. What private label, you can get much smaller batches. So let's say that you wanted to sell a protein powder, or something like that, that you find a company that makes a really good pea protein powder or something like that. You can get that private label through them, and you can usually do like 100 units of that, and that's going to be a lot cheaper, kind of to test the market and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, product-based businesses, you have to have a little bit of in either you can get an investment, there are a ton of grants. The
Good.
Department of Agriculture of different states will do grants and things like that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can fund it. I know some friends have done GoFundMe's, those sorts of things. So it's not necessarily like if you don't have the money, you can't do it. You just probably have to be a little resourceful about either getting the funding or picking a product that's a little bit cheaper to start with initially.
Hmm. Okay, that's very very interesting and some great tips, especially regarding the grants. That's always a good thing to look for when you're trying to do anything, honestly.
Yeah.
So obviously we're talking about a lot about the product and how it came about. Tell us a little bit about your strategy in introducing this product to the world so that you can start selling it.
Yeah. So that was kind of another aha or wow moment for me was just uh, how it's difficult to build that brand awareness, especially a lot of people that do product-based businesses usually start with like a larger team, and it's just me and I have an assistant that's doing it, so it's much smaller. Um, so initially what I started off with, I've done a lot of different methods for marketing, and I found kind of what works and what avenues I want to pursue for my particular product. That's going to vary a lot. One recommendation I have for people that sell physical products is to get in front of, like, personally meet customers as soon as possible. So whether that's doing like expos or trade shows or farmers markets or whatever, because that's really going to show you who your customer is. And really this honestly can apply as well for health coaches that want to get started out, just getting out and talking to people as much as possible, because it really just, it's the fastest way to figure out what resonates with people, why they care about this product. And if you can do it during product development too, that's huge. So that was one of the ways. I did some influencer or content creator marketing where I worked with some, and that I would do very differently now. I don't think what I did was quite as effective as I would have liked it to be. I do run online ads, and that's a really good piece of the business for us. And then soon I'm working on getting into retail as well. So getting into grocery stores and those pieces, which is kind of another like beast of its own.
Mm.
And then also we have some doctors and health coaches actually as well that resell our products. So we'll sell them to them at a lower cost, or we'll do affiliate work with them as well. So those
Yeah.
are kind of the big ways that we market currently.
Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna go back to just because I know that you mentioned it. I just want to dive a little deeper into this. As far as that influencer work, what did that look like, and what was the thing that you would have done differently about that?
Yeah. So I initially, when we launched, I worked with a bunch of influencers who would share the products with their audience and they'd create content for us. And a lot of them created really beautiful content. But what I've kind of started to discover, and I think a lot of brands, I have a lot of friends that own brands as well, and they've kind of shared the same sentiment, is that there's like, uh, people who are just representing products and they don't really care as much about the products. And that's really evident to the audience. And so I think anybody that works with a brand, I'm thinking this is kind of how it's going to transition to in the future, is people are going to work more with specific brands for longer term. Because I think as a consumer, if you see someone and every single week they're representing a new product, it becomes white noise and you're not going to listen to it. But if there's somebody that you like, you trust them, maybe they're your health coach or they're, a doctor that or something of that sort, somebody who really is passionate about health or the space that you're interested in, and they represent just a few products over a long term. I think
Mm.
that's how influencer marketing is more going to go, is where people are going to actually start creating these partnerships with brands versus these one-off deals. Because I think A, it's a lot less work on both parts, and B, as you can kind of partner together. So as the brand does better and as the influencer, whoever it is, does better, they kind of get to work alongside each other. Versus the way that I did it initially was a bunch of these one-off deals, and it was a lot of work to set up, and it didn't create the type of relationship that I wanted. So yeah, that's kind of how I would adjust that, and how I think the market is going to be going. I think there will always be content creators who are creating things like ads and videos for brands and things like that. But I think in terms of the more influencer approach where people are recommending products, I think it's kind of going to move towards partnerships versus a bunch of products being recommended by one person.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I just wanted to let you speak on it because I've heard some really interesting, I don't want to call them horror stories, but just with people who are chasing the influencers to push products. I've heard like people have, let's say, 10 million followers and they can only sell like 10 products, because a lot of people
Yeah.
who, yeah, you think, oh, they have this big following, but people aren't really into them like that. So, or to have any
Yeah.
of them be, recommending any of these things that might, um, be beneficial to you specifically, they don't necessarily convert. So I wanted to see if that was something that you experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I had some that worked well, and I found honestly it was the people who their platform was for something very specific. So it wasn't like a lifestyle platform. It was somebody who was a health coach or a nutritionist or a doctor who really cares about my product's a health product. So they really care about health. And so those were much better because their audience is much more engaged. They really look to them as a guide and a support for themselves. And so I think that's really I think health coaches really could have a huge play in the way that this is going because they really are that authority piece.
No, absolutely. So I know obviously you are the queen of collagen. Do you think that you will expand your product line, or this is just something that you're so passionate about that you think you're going to stay in this lane for the long haul?
Yeah, no, I do think eventually we'll add some other products. I have some ideas already. I want to add basically like foundational health things. So I think collagen is really foundational. And the other ideas I have are quite foundational too. So I want the brand to maintain like a really high quality supplement and food. That's kind of going to be the underlying theme. And so people can come to us to really just find products that they can trust and they can say like, yes, this is as good as it gets.
Hmm. Yeah, no, listen, that's great. I definitely think that you're on the verge of just being like the authority in that because, again, that's what we're looking for. And it's so important nowadays to make people aware of what we're putting in our bodies and just even just like you said, you dropped a gem on us with just, but a lot of health coaches do know this, but a lot of people may not know it in the general population is how tricky it is to navigate the world of food and beauty products and skincare things. I mean, you name it,
Yeah.
it's very difficult, especially in the US. So yeah, looking forward to what you're going to be doing in the future. And what I guess I'll end with is just, any advice that you might have for a health coach who's just starting, who is wanting to get into this type of business. And then after that, if you could just give us like all your social media handles and websites so that we can keep up with the stuff that you're doing and look out for the products as they come out.
Yeah, yeah. So advice, I think if you're interested in getting into the product space, I would recommend just reaching out to people as the first step and picking people's brains because people are very nice and they really do want to help you. I'm happy to talk to any of your guests about it if people are interested in that. Yeah, I think that's really like I learn the most talking to people, even if they're not as far along in their business as I am, just having those conversations and those relationships and connections is, I think, the most powerful way that you can grow your business.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So, like I had mentioned, just give us your, social website, anything that we can keep abreast of all the stuff that you're up to going forward.
Yeah, yeah. So if anybody wants to reach out, our website is ThePerfect3, so the number 3.com. And that's the collagen website. And then our Instagram is @_ the perfect three, the number 3. So those are probably the best two places. And if you send a message on either of those, that'll get to me. And yeah, I'm happy to chat with anyone that's interested in this.
That's awesome. Jenn, you were fantastic. I really appreciate all the knowledge you dropped today and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise. Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.